All right, so we're going to set up a AWS ec2 instance now, and we're going to make that our server for hosting our website. So first thing we're going to do is go to AWS, and you might have to make an account if you don't have one already. To do so, you'll need a credit card. You won't get charged for anything we're doing. Everything we're doing is free for at least a year, and then after that, it's like under 10, maybe 20 at most to maintain your website um, a month. So it's still cheaper than most website services, and you'll have complete control over your website. But for a year, everything's free, so everything we're doing should be totally free. All right, so you'll have to set up an account with email, credit card. Once you have an account set up, you want to sign into the AWS console like I'm doing now. This is the AWS console. You'll notice we have a lot of things to choose from here. Um, so what we want is ec2, virtual servers in the cloud, elastic computing. Once we go to that, you'll see the ec2 instance console. And what we want to do is, you see I already have some running. I want to create an instance. So I'm going to launch instance. And I want free tier eligible. And I want the Amazon Linux AMI, not Amazon Linux 2. So we're going to select that. We want free tier eligible T2 micro for our CPU. And we go to configure instance details. So we just need to modify the security groups. So up here in configure security group, we want to add, in addition to SSH protocol, HTTP so that people can go to our website and see it. And I'm also just going to add MS SQL port 1433 for database backups that we'll do later. Okay, so I'm going to review and launch. Oops. All right, let's just get rid of that. We don't really need it for now. I'm going to review and launch. We can always change the security groups later. And it's warning us that our security group's open to the world because we have port 80 open for web services. That is okay. Everything looks good, so now we launch it. And we're going to create a new key pair. So our key pair is important. This is the way that we communicate with our server through SSH, through secure encryption. And it's going to be private public key encryption. So we'll need to save our private key, which will be a .pem file. Let's give it a name, test key, and we download it. It's just a normal download. So test key is now in my downloads folder, and then I launch the instance. All right, so you're going to want to, if you haven't already, download MOBA Xterm, because this is what we're going to use to talk to our Linux instance through SSH. So Windows can do this if you tinker with some settings with the command line, but really this is going to make our life a whole lot easier. So this is a way of communicating with our service through an application. So we want to get that, get the free edition, and go ahead and get the installer edition and install. So I'm going to start MOBA Xterm because I already have it installed. And so you can see it, I'll bring it over here. And let's check on our ec2 instance. You can see it's now launching. We can view the log, but what I really want to do is just go home, go back to my ec2. You can see I have 3 running instances now. So click on running instances, and this is the new one. Let's give it a name. We'll call it test just to keep track of it. And it is in fact running. So to communicate with it, we're going to need its public IP. This is also going to be, so I'm just going to Control C to copy it. This is also going to be where people go to see your WordPress website when it's up and running. So over here, I'm going to go to Session in MOBA Xterm, Session, and then I'm going to go to SSH because that's the type of encryption we're using to communicate. For remote host, I'm going to put the ec2 instance I copied, the public IP of the ec2 instance. For username, by default, it's ec2 user for Amazon. Then I'm going to go to Advanced SSH Settings, Use Private Key. I'm going to check that. And I'm going to click over here to browse for that key location. And you can see it's actually in my Downloads folder right now. So you want to probably make a copy of this key and store it in a external drive somewhere or a USB. So that you have, because if you lose this, you won't be able to communicate with your ec2 instance, and that would be very bad. You also want to store it in a better location than this. This is kind of a folder that gets deleted on my computer, at least quite often, and it's also publicly available. So this is your way of changing anything on your Linux computer. So store it appropriately. There's my test key. I just click open, use private key, and then OK. And it'll start up a session, and it's going to connect to the ec2 instance. All right, so you can see over here on the right, this is the directory I'm in, home/user/ec2 user. And if I hit pwd, that just tells me my location. So this is a terminal talking to the Linux computer. This is actually the Linux computer. I'm just talking to it on my computer. If I hit cd space ... I move up a directory. So if you hit pwd again, you can see I'm just in home. So to see that over here, we can just click up for parent directory. There's nothing in the home directory except the ec2 user file. So if I hit ls, and so I'm talking directly through the command line to the remote computer. ls is a command that just lists the things that are in the directory I'm in. And you can see that I have just an ec2 user folder right here when I hit ls. Same thing we see over here. So I hit cd ... again, and then ls again. I'm up one more directory, and this is what it looks like on a file explorer. This is what it looks like in the command line, so they're identical. So I just want you to get used to that. And I'm going to click down here, a follow terminal folder, so that now when I cd, and I can not only change directory up with a ... but I can cd change directory down. So if I want to go into this var directory, which I do, you'll see now, because I've clicked follow terminal folder, I can see everything in the var directory over here on the left. And if I hit ls, list the items, we can also see everything down here on the right. So I'm going to hit clear to just clean that up. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to first set up an AWS LAMP server. And there's a nice tutorial that AWS has put out on how to do that. And you can follow this piece by piece, or you can follow me. I'm going to take some shortcuts along the way. So the first thing I want to do is install all the, so I'm copying and pasting this install line right here. These are just dependencies and requirements for having a LAMP server. And once that's installed, I'm going to start it. Start the server. So this is the fast version. I really recommend you read all of these things before you do them. I'm just showing you the process. So we can check that the config is on. It is, okay. Oh, sorry. Check config HTTP on is going to make sure that our Apache web server goes on every time the instance starts. So we can shut down the remote computer, the Linux instance that I'm on right now, if we don't want to pay for it or if there's no web traffic. When we start it up again, we'll have our Apache server start up with it. That's what that check config did. All right, we can see that it's running. I trust that it's running. So I'm going to skip that. We can test that we have a web page running. I'm going to skip that as well. We need to change file permissions in a directory that's the Apache document root in order to use some WordPress services. So we're going to change those file permissions right now. I'm just copying and pasting. And I want to exit now my session. And that is session stopped. Press return. Press R to restart session. So I'm going to do that. So now I'm back on the Linux computer, and I've added a user called ec2 user. We can see this by typing groups. There's the new user. So I had to exit and log in to my session. You can also log into your sessions by, if you look over here on sessions, just double clicking on the IP that you've set up. I'm going to switch back to the directory view. Okay, and I made that smaller. So that's fine. So now we're gonna just change some permissions with the chown command so that we can modify files, WordPress can modify files, and users can see those files when they go to our website from afar. And as you can see, I'm mostly just copying and pasting here all these recursive file permission settings. All right. We're not going to test it. We are just going to go straight to WordPress settings at this point. We're not going to secure the database either. These are all things you might want to do. This optional install my PHP admin we will do later as well. So for now, we're ready at this point to set up WordPress. So we want to set up a WordPress site with AWS ec2. And here's the appropriate tutorial. Hosting a WordPress blog. So you'll see that they're like, hey, getting started, you, as a prerequisite, need to install the LAMP web server. So there's that same tutorial we just did on Linux AMI 1. Remember, we're not using Linux 2. All right. So now we first go get WordPress. This command. So we've got it. We can see it. There it is. We need to unzip it. So use this command to unzip. Let's make sure that our MySQL database is on. I'm not sure we started that service. We didn't. Okay, so we just started the MySQL database, which is good because we need that to be running for WordPress to work. And we're going to actually get into MySQL now with this command and set up the database. So I don't have a password yet. I'm just going to hit enter. So that's fine. And we want to create user. I'm just going to use your strong password here as my password. So you want to actually put in a different user and a different password. Well, let's make it more realistic. Let's go ahead and do whoops. Is that a backtick or a tick? Okay. So you want a better password than password. Don't do that. And you want a better user than just your name. Remember, this is just for security. And since I'm just testing this right now, doing a tutorial right now, I don't really care about the security of this instance. So we've made, at that point, a user. Now we want to create a database. I'm just going to use WB database. That's fine for the database name. And we want to grant all privileges to ourselves at this point for that database, so that WordPress can modify the database. Okay. Then we flush privileges. And exit. So we're out of MySQL now. So at this point, you'll see we have this WordPress website. I'm going to cd to it. Oh, actually, I'm not going to cd to it because the commands here in the tutorial are talking to it from the above directory. So I'm just going to stick to the tutorial. What we're doing here is we're copying a WordPress config folder. That's just a sample to make our own WordPress config called wp-config.php. Once we've done that, I guess we could use Nano. We could use Nano or Vim. Let's use Nano like they are. It's a text editor to modify that config folder. And so the things we have to change here are our database name. And we called this WordPress DB. Oops. Our username, which is Daniel in my case, and our password, which is password in my case. Alright, the other thing we have to change here is we need a unique salt, so we're just going to get rid of all this stuff. So this is going to be automatically generated by our browser, all these authentication keys, and this is just for encryption and security. So over here, if you see, they have a WordPress secret key salt website. We're just going to select all with Control A, copy, and we're going to paste that in. Yes. Okay, so there we go. You can see, so now if we expand this a little bit, we can see a little more clearly. We have all those keys, and these are just randomly generated characters for that key that we got from the website. So if we look down here to exit, to write file, we want to hit Control O and then enter. And then to exit, we want to hit Control X. That's just the Nano commands. All right, cool. So we've modified that. Now we want WordPress to run at the root directory of our server. So we want to just copy WordPress over to that location. So what we're doing is we're copying recursively everything in the WordPress folder down. So not the directory, but everything in the directory WordPress. We're copying it over to this location, var www.html, which is where people will go to when they see our website. So that's done. Now we need to do one more thing. We need to change the Apache configuration slightly to allow overrides for WordPress hooks. So I copied and pasted that vim command, and now I'm in Apache, and I'm looking for directory var HTML, this right here. And what I want to change, I'm going to hit I to enter insert mode so I can change things. And this allow overrides, I'm going to switch from none to all. Then I'm going to hit escape to get, see I'm in insert mode down here in Vim, escape to get out of insert mode, and then colon, this colon, WQ to write and quit. Okay. We're going to change some more ownerships at this point. Some of these we've already done, but let's just repeat, because why not? So the first few bits of every file are the permissions, so who can modify, who can read, who can write that file. And what we're doing is we're changing recursively a whole bunch of files so that people can come to our website and their computer can read the file so they can't write it, but we, as the Amazon users, can both read and write those files. Alright, so now we're all set. We want to, at this point, go to our browser, and we're just going to go to this IP, 172.31.63.219. So I'm getting that from right here. This is the IP location of the computer, and it's actually going to, it's actually going to take me to the WordPress install script. So now it's going to run WordPress configurations, that WP config file we modified, and if all goes well, and I have a problem. 172. Oh, you know what? This is not actually the IP, the public IP, so we need to go to this IP right here, 35.170.248.253. That is our public IP. 35.170.248.253. All right, and so now we're running the WordPress install script. Okay. Another place where that public IP is located is over here in your ec2 instance console. So you can go there either way. So we want to just select. So now we're just running WordPress through our browser, and most of what we do now will be through our browser. We don't really need to do much or anything really over here on the server side. So I'm going to exit my session, and then I'm going to close MobaXterm at this point and just do everything on the browser. So let's give it a title, test site, a username, which is Daniel, a password, which is password, and I'm going to confirm that it's weak, an email, and we don't want to discourage search engines because we want people to find our website. So now we log in with the username we set and the password we set. And at this point, we're on the WordPress the WordPress console. So we can see what our website looks like now by going just straight to that IP. So this is what a user or a client will see, and we've got the default feed. There's our site name. Here's where our posts would be, and so at this point, everything we do is going to be through this WP admin dashboard. So if you want to get back to this, you want to type in the IP plus WP admin. So I'm just going to add a new post to show you how this works. And let's add some media. Oops. Let's add, hey everybody. Yeah, can we add some media here? Yeah. Okay, so let's add media. Let's upload a file, and I'll just look in my pictures. There's a file of a dog. Looks good. Let's insert it, and then we're going to, we could preview it if we want, we could save it as a draft. We're just going to publish it. Once it's published, when people go to our website now, they'll see this new post first. There's lots of stuff we can do through this interface right here. We can change the, we can add a new page if we wanted. We can add, we can change our theme itself. So that's the theme we're currently using. If we wanted to switch to here, we could activate that. And now if you go to our website, you'll see there's a new theme where the posts are over here. So to understand how to do things, you know, play around, obviously. The other thing to do is to go to the WordPress codex, where there's some good documentation